The question is, what principles, what ideas, what concepts can radically and fundamentally change your life, change your experience of life? And perhaps the most important principle is this. If I were to ask you what type of religion is Judaism, you'd say Judaism, like what we know it to be, is a spiritual religion. But if I were to ask you, why then is Judaism such a physical religion? Like, by a count of fingers, how many mitzvahs, how many commandments are purely spiritual, of the mind, mental? You can literally count them on one hand, right? Believe in God, don't serve idolatry, don't be jealous. Like, there are literally a handful of spiritual mental mitzvahs. Almost every single commandment is physical. Eat matzah, shake lulav, wear tzitzis, light candles. Why are we engaging the physical world so much if we're spiritual people? And if I were to ask you, what did Abraham, what did he bring to the world? What was his chiddush? What was his novel introduction to the world? Most people would say monotheism. He introduced the fact that God exists, but that can't be true. Adam, he had a connection with God. Noah, lived just before Avraham, obviously believed in God, obviously taught people that God exists. Shem and Aver lived at the very same time as Abraham. There's the yeshiva, literally the house of Shem and Aver, they're teaching Torah. So what did Avraham introduce? And if Judaism is so physical, why are we such a spiritual people? What's the idea here? But there are two modes of spiritual approach, two main modes. One is what we can call a transcendent approach to life. That the physical world is dangerous. You can get lost in physical impulses, physical desire, physical drives, lose track of what's important. So the best way to live a spiritual life is to transcend it. To be a Buddhist, to just meditate on your navel, to transcend your physical existence and become entirely a mental conscious being, a spiritual being. But there's a higher mode of spiritual consciousness, one that's ideal, difficult, truly difficult, and it's based off of a fascinating midrash. All the Balei Machshava that use this midrash is in the beginning of Bereishis Rabbah, one of the most fascinating and fundamental and famous midrashim that the sages talk about. And the line is very simple. It says, Stakel baraisa ubara'am. That when God created the world, he looked into the Torah, used the Torah to create the world. Now, how do you view the physical world? Most philosophers, you ask Aristotle, you ask most philosophers, the physical world's a place. It's just a place. And what you can do in this world, in this place, is contemplate. You can mentally, intellectually, rationally, philosophically contemplate existence, contemplate God, contemplate meaning, contemplate purpose, contemplate your purpose, and you can transcend the limited physical existence you have and exist within the realm of truth, the realm of ideas, the realm of the transcendent. But this midrash, the Stakel Baraisa Bar Alma, gives a very different approach to the physical world. That the physical world is an expression of Torah, an expression of truth, an expression of the spiritual. Right? You look at a human being, it came from a zygote. That zygote became fully expressed into a human being. You look at a tree, it came from a seed. That seed became expressed into a human being. You look at, let's say there was a projector projecting onto a screen. What you see in that screen came from the projector. The physical world is that projection, that emanation, that expression of Torah, of spirituality. Everything in the physical world is not just a creation, it's an expression, which means that from the physical you can both understand the spiritual, understand the transcendent, understand ideas, principles, concepts, understand Torah, and connect to it. The entire essence of Torah living is connecting to the transcendent, connecting to the spiritual through the physical, which is why every mitzvah essentially is a physical action. Because the way to connect to that which is higher is through this world. Which is why the Maharal explains that the root of mitzvah, of commandment, is tzavta, which means to connect. Because it's through commandments that we connect to the spiritual, the transcendent, and connect to Hashem. Which is an amazing paradigm. Maharal explains that there's different ways of understanding commandment. One is a commander commanding a soldier to do. The other is a form of connection where I give you my will, and by connecting to it, you're connected to the person who willed it. Asay ritzoncha kirtzono. Make your will like His will. Connect yourself to that which is higher. Connect yourself to Hashem. Connect yourself to the godly. So when you approach spirituality through this paradigm, physical life becomes transcendent. That's why Avraham basically made a fascinating chiddush. He said, listen, Shem and Aver, there's a reason why. What did Avraham introduce? So Shem and Aver, according to some, just didn't teach Torah to the masses. Avraham was the one who taught it to the masses. But some talk about a very fascinating distinction between the Torah of Shem and Aver and the Torah of Avraham. That Shem and Aver lived during the Dor HaMabul, the nation of the flood. Dor HaFlaga, the nation that rebelled against God. And they saw that the world was a dangerous place, and they decided that the only way to preserve, to spiritually connect, we have to transcend the physical. Is it ideal? No. Is it practical? Yes. So they did it. And Avraham's chiddush, his novelty, was saying, is it ideal? Is it difficult? Is it idealistic to engage in the physical? Of course. Is it going to be hard? Are people going to fall, and are they going to struggle? Of course. But it's the truth of the oneness of existence. True spirituality is not transcending the physical. It's being transcendent within the physical. It's understanding how everything you eat, everything you say, everything you think, everything you do, every relationship, every business transaction, everything in your life is meaningful, full of spiritual consciousness, full of depth, full of purpose. And when you start living that type of life, everything changes.